On a shelf, somewhere, there is a plastic box. Inside it, a strip of tape. On the front, a rocket and 3 words, Apollo 13. And tucked under the case, a little paper slip, a late fee slip. For years, one story about this exact tape was told again and again. A man rents Apollo 13. He forgets to return it. 6 weeks go by, and when he finally finds it, lost under a stack of papers, he owes $40. He is so embarrassed, he doesn't even tell his wife. And on the drive to the gym, so the story goes, he has an idea that will build one of the biggest companies on Earth. There is only one problem with that story. It almost certainly never happened. So let's go back to where it really began. Dallas, Texas, October 1985. A man named David Cook opens a store. Not a software firm, not a studio, a video rental store. But Cook came from the computer world, and he saw something the little corner shops had missed. Most rental stores kept a few hundred tapes behind the counter. Cook filled his shelves with around 8,000 titles, right out in the open, where you could walk the aisles and pick for yourself. And every single tape was tracked by a barcode and a computer, so he always knew what was renting and what was not. Opening night, the store was so packed they had to lock the doors just to slow the crowd down. One store, one very good idea. But David Cook needed money to grow. And in early 1987, he sold control of his young company to a group led by a businessman named Wayne Huizenga. Huizenga had built one of America's biggest waste companies, and he understood one thing better than almost anyone: how to copy a good store, fast, everywhere. And that is exactly what he did. At the end of 1987, Blockbuster had 133 stores. A year later, more than 400. By 1989, over 1,000. At the peak of the run, a brand new Blockbuster was opening somewhere in America roughly once a day. Think about that. Every single day, another set of doors, another wall of new releases, another town getting its first Friday night video store. The little Dallas idea had become a machine. And with that machine came a ritual. For a whole generation, the weekend started the same way. You piled into the car, you walked those bright blue aisles, you argued over 2 movies, you grabbed the candy by the register, and you rewound the tape before you brought it back. They even had a slogan for it: "Make it a Blockbuster night." By 2004, this was not a chain anymore. It was an empire. 9,094 stores around the world, around 84,000 employees. Roughly 4 out of every 10 video rentals in America went through those yellow doors. And Hollywood had already noticed. Back in 1994, the media giant Viacom bought Blockbuster in a deal valued at $8.4 billion. The corner store from Dallas was now worth billions. But every empire has a crack in it. And for Blockbuster, the crack was that little paper slip from the very start of this story: late fees. Here was the strange thing. The most disliked part of the whole experience was also one of the most profitable. In the year 2000, analysts estimated Blockbuster pulled in around $800 million in late fees alone. That was roughly 1 out of every $6 the company made. Customers resented it. You kept a tape a few days too long, and suddenly the $3 rental cost you $15. It felt like a penalty for loving movies. Blockbuster knew people hated it, but how do you walk away from $800 million? That question was about to walk right through the front door. The year 2000. 3 men fly to Blockbuster's Dallas headquarters. They run a tiny, money-losing startup that mails DVDs to people through the post. Its name is Netflix. It has around 300,000 subscribers, and it is burning through cash. The dot-com bubble has just burst, and their own plan to go public has fallen apart. So they come with an offer. Let Blockbuster buy Netflix. Run it as your online arm. The price? $50 million. Across the table sits Blockbuster's chief executive, John Antioco. And by one of the founders' own account, Antioco is polite. He isn't rude. But when he hears the number, the corner of his mouth turns up. He is, in that man's words, struggling not to laugh. Netflix flies home with nothing. Now, be honest with yourself. In the year 2000, would you have paid $50 million for a tiny DVD company that was losing money? Almost nobody would have. And that is what makes what happened next so surprising. Because here is the part almost everyone forgets. Blockbuster fought back, and for a while, it worked. In January 2005, Antioco did the once unthinkable. He wiped out late fees. The very thing that made all that money gone, to win back the customers who resented it. Then Blockbuster went online with its own DVD by mail service, and it added a trick Netflix simply could not copy. It was called Total Access. Rent a movie online, and when you were done, you could drop it back at any store and walk out with a new one on the spot. The internet, plus 6,000 storefronts. And people loved it. By the middle of 2007, Blockbuster had around 3.6 million online subscribers, growing faster than Netflix was. For a moment, at that one moment, the giant was winning the race it was supposed to lose. So if Blockbuster was winning, what went wrong? Not the market, the boardroom. Dropping late fees and building Total Access was expensive. It cost the company hundreds of millions, and one powerful investor had been unhappy for a long time. His name was Carl Icahn. He had been buying up Blockbuster shares, and he thought Antioco was spending too much and being paid too much. The two clashed for 2 years, and in July 2007, over a dispute about his pay, John Antioco walked out the door. In his place came a new chief executive, a former convenience store boss named James Keyes. And Keyes looked at all that expensive online spending, and he pumped the brakes. He pulled back from the very strategy that had been catching Netflix. The comeback had a leader, now it didn't. And the timing could not have been worse. The money tells the whole story by itself. Follow it. In 1993, Blockbuster took in about $2.2 billion a year. Under Viacom, it climbed. By 1997, revenue had grown to nearly $4 billion. And then came the golden years. In 2004, Blockbuster reached its highest point ever, just over $6 billion in a single year. But that same year, the company was cut loose from Viacom, and the split loaded it with around $1 billion in debt it would never work off. Cheap kiosks appeared outside every grocery store. Streaming was coming. And with the comeback shut down, the fall came fast. By 2010, revenue had slid back to about $3.2 billion, and falling. The line that took 20 years to climb was coming down in just a handful of years. On September 23, 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy protection. And to understand how far it had fallen, put two numbers side by side on the very same day. Blockbuster, the giant that once made billions, was now worth around $55 million. That same day, Netflix, the tiny company it had refused to buy for $50 million 10 years earlier, was worth about $8.47 billion. Netflix was now roughly 150 times larger than Blockbuster. The two companies had traded places completely. A few months later, at an all-night court auction, the satellite company Dish Network bought what was left of Blockbuster for around $320 million. The empire of 9,000 stores sold in a single night.
So is Blockbuster gone?
Almost. The stores faded, a few at a time, all through the 2010s. The last big batch closed in early 2014. Then it came down to a handful, then a few, and then just one. In a small city called Bend, Oregon, one Blockbuster store is still open. The blue and yellow sign still glows. The shelves are still full of tapes and cases, and people fly in from all over the world just to walk those aisles one more time and feel a Friday night from 30 years ago. In 2024, a rumor went around that even this one was closing. It wasn't true. The last Blockbuster answered the rumor itself. It is still there, still renting movies. The last store standing. So here is the real lesson of Blockbuster. It is not the one you were told. Blockbuster did not fall asleep. It did not miss the future. It saw Netflix coming. It fought back with no late fees and total access. And for one real moment, it was actually winning. Then it changed leaders, pulled back its own comeback, and handed the race away. Blockbuster wasn't beaten by a tiny rival. In the end, it beat itself. And that little late fee story about Apollo 13, the one everyone repeats, Netflix's own co-founder says it never really happened. The myth was just simpler than the truth. The truth is that the giant had the future in its hands twice, and twice it let go. So here's a question for you. Which giant should we open up next? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe, because here we open the tapes the giants would rather keep closed. This was the Industry Tapes.